Baruch Fleischman here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel. And now is our time to learn Zohar. Zohar for the day. Today is the second day of the week of Parshas Shemot. It's the day of Gevurah. We're going to come over here and look at this Zohar right now. This tremendous pirush of the Matik Medavash. So you have, those of you who haven't listened to any of the shiurim before, you have to realize that what the Matik Medavash does it does many things, but he does two fantastic things. One is he translates the Zohar. And he translates it really, really nicely. On the other hand, there's another thing he does. He brings us the Ari. Without the Ari, there's really no way to understand what the secrets are, because the Ari opens the whole book up. He opens up the words of Rebbe Shimon, and that is the basic purpose that the Ari said for himself in this world was to make it possible to understand where Rebbe Shimon is coming from. So there's a beautiful little piece of Zohar here today about prayer and about how it works. And just a nice little story also as well. Let's open up this book. Let's get over here, and we are on page Kuf Mem Ches. Now let me start here. We're going to be down at the bottom. It's going to say Tana Rabbanan, and here we are down here. So right here is the place where we're going to start reading. It's going to stay like this. Tanan, we learn. Amar Rebbe Yehuda says like this: Ein loch davar b'chibusa kamei kudsha barichu. Ein l'cha davar chaviv. There's nothing more precious, ve'echad and loved, livnei Hakadosh Boruch Hu, for the Hakadosh Boruch Hu. Kamoti v'lasem shal tzaddikim, like the prayers of tzaddikim. Because why? Kibit v'lasem heim gormin yichud zun l'malo. Now we understand that we live in a world of separations, but the Hakadosh Boruch Hu is one. All the world between us and oneness is separation, many different kinds of separations. Our job is to bring the yichud back together. He calls this the yichud of opposites, which is the yichud of male and female. V'afal gab d'nicholei. V'afal pisha to be losem he lo l'nachas ruach. And this is what the Zohar wants to say here. That you pray, and you're trying sincerely as much as you can to have your prayers answered. And the tzaddik prays. And he also wants his prayers to be answered. In kol zeh zimnim da'avid be'usichon zimnim de'lo-avid. V'lepamim, it says sometimes, osim ritzonim, sometimes Hashem does the will of the tzaddikim. V'lepamim eina osim ritzonim, but then sometimes he doesn't. So we don't really understand the effects, but we understand that Hashem loves it. So he says, let's start right here. And he says, Maybe Maisa Be'inyan Zeh. Now we're going to have a little story here. And the story says, V'Amar. It says, like Tana Rabbana, we learned, the rabbis learned in a brisa. Zim Nechada Havach Almach Tzrich Lemitra. Pam Achas, there was one time, Hayat Tzarech Ha'oilen L'Geshaman, it hadn't rained. The world needed rain. Also Rebbe Eliezer V'Gazer Arbin Ta'anisa. Below also Mitra. Bob Rebbe Eliezer. Now you have to understand that Rebbe Eliezer was the great man of his generation. He's called Rebbe Eliezer Hagadol. He is the rabbi, he's the Rebbe of Rebbe Akiva, who's of course the Rebbe of Rebbe Shimon. This is somebody who's really rooted in Torah. And he said, Bob Rebbe Eliezer Hagadol V'Gazer Arbayim. He made a Gevurah, decree, 40 fasts, Taniyos, below Yarad Geshem. But after the 40 fasts, the brain still didn't come down. Salit Salusa also Mitra. He himself made a special prayer. His spalo tefillah v'locha b'Yarad Geshem. So the rain still did not come even after he prayed. Also Rebbe Akiva. Then Rebbe Akiva stepped up, his student. V'kam v'tzaleh, and he stood and he began to pray. So Rebbe Akiva v'amar v'tzpalel. Ama Mashiv Haruach, and he said these words, Mashiv Haruach, let the wind blow. The Nashav Zika, and then the wind started blowing really, really hard. Ama Humari the Geshem, then he said, then bring down the rain. V'asamitra, and it started to rain. Yad Yara the Geshem. Cholish died to the Rebbe Eliezer. What happened then? Cholsh, then all of a sudden the thinking of Rebbe Eliezer became faint. Dam shel Rebbe Eliezer, mipnei chilul Hashem, because of the what he felt was the profanation of Hashem's name, she'amar hababrios, that people will start saying, Harehu nira ketzadik, he looks like tzaddik, veino kind of came, but it's not true. Everybody says a great tzaddik. Because he wasn't answered by his prayers. Somebody else was answered. Rebbe Akiva ba'anpoi. Then Rebbe Akiva came, Rebbe Akiva befanda. The Rebbe Akiva then came and looked at the face. He saw the face of Rebbe Eliezer, his Rebbe. Rebbe Eliezer, vehirgish as chulshas dato, when he saw how fallen his thinking, how depressed he might become. Miyad, so he said, here we are. Miyad, Yara de Geshem. So, excuse me, I'm wrong place. Miyad, come Rebbe Akiva. So immediate Rebbe Akiva got up. Kame'ama, and before all the people that were gathered around, that were all been praying and trying so hard. So let me tell you a story. Let me tell you something that you can, the story for which you can understand. Rebbe Eliezer, what? Rebbe Eliezer, dame l'rachim the malchut the rachim le yatir. So he is like the beloved of the king, who has a tremendous amount of love for this, more than anybody else. Rebbe Eliezer daimel lo'ohavo shel melech she'ochev oso b'yoso, who loves him more than anybody else. Because all who kamei malcho nichale v'lo boy lemida le be'usa be'behilu ki heched lo lehisparesh minei. Long sentence. Let's translate the motto. Usheniknas lefonav, and as a person enters in before the king, Yesh lo nachas mimenu, the king has a tremendous amount of joy and pleasure from the fact that this tzaddik is now standing before him. L'chein eina rotza the says lo as bekashaso miad. So therefore he doesn't want to answer his prayer right away. K'dei shelo yifared v'yelech mimenu, so that he shouldn't separate and then, disappear and just be gone. He got his answer, he's gone. D'nichalei the lishtoi b'hadei. Because the tremendous pleasure that Hakadosh Boruch Hu has as he is speaking to the tzaddik. So here we are now. He says, if you look at me and you look at Rebbe Eliezer, he says, I'm just like the servant of a king, the slave of a king. Who really is seeking something that he needs before the master. He doesn't want to take me into the deepest places. He doesn't want to have to go into the gates of his palace. And even he doesn't really want to talk to the servant. That's me. He says to us, so then the king, talking about Hakadosh Boruch Hu, he says, Rebbe Akiva is standing for him. He says, give him, Bekashasa, what he wants. Bimheira, do it quickly. And don't let him come any more deeply, like the metaphor is to Rebbe Eliezer. So now we over here at Kach Rebbe Eliezer, Ihu Rechimu de Malcha v'ane Avda. Let's look at it really. Kahu HaNimshal, this is really what the story wants to tell you. Rebbe Eliezer who Ohev, he is Ahuv. Rebbe Eliezer is loved. He is the real loved one of the Melech. V'ani daima le'eved the Melech, and I'm like a slave. But not all about Rebbe Eliezer who Ovid is a Hakadosh Boruch Hu Ma'ava. He loves a Hakadosh Baruch Hu. He serves a Hakadosh Baruch Hu from love. V'hu b'bedregas ben, and he's like the level of a son to a Hakadosh Baruch Hu. A boy malchuli shtoi b'chadei, and the Hakadosh Baruch Hu wants to celebrate with him. He wants to talk to him. He wants to be with him. And he wants to be like that all the time, and he doesn't want to separate himself from this person. A melech wrote to the dabarim. Adela wants to talk to him. He wants to schmooze a little bit. Kol yom, every day he wants to be with him. And he wants it, that he should never be separated from him. Hakadosh Baruch Hu ohuvo, because Hakadosh Baruch Hu is his lover. And what does Hakadosh Baruch Hu? You have to really think about this. So this is like the analogy I think about Moshe Rabbeinu. He comes and he says what he says to the people. He comes and he says what he says to Pharaoh, and it gets worse. So not better. So his prayer doesn't seem to be answered. That's what I'm thinking. So it is so that he should go off with his tekina. Let me see where I'm at. But the kinasa l'toka Ava, because, and why does he want him to keep going on with the prayer or continue with the prayer? 40 days he prayed. He prayed personally, special prayers. So why does he want? He wants that lover to be with him. Ava ki called the bar of Hema Rabin the Father, because all of his words, everything he says, are very sweet in front of him. Here we are. V'analo boy malka B. Rabbi Akiva says. Analo boy malka de ehul tare palteri. Here you have Rabbi Eliezer, V'ani ein hamelech rotza she'akonis b'sharei hamelech. The Hakadosh Boruch Hu doesn't want me to come into the palace. He doesn't want to sit with me. Ki ani oved es Hashem meyira, because I serve Hashem only because I'm afraid. Ki eved es avel, just like a eved who has the same fear that he has of his master. V'chein hu memalech es b'kashos, so therefore he comes and he answers my prayers. Miad, right away. Because of the time, the amount of time, the length of the words that we're saying. Lo yavu gasas belibi, they shouldn't be like, I should come be very proud in my heart about v'chas v'sholem, about what I was able to do with the Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Also as a yirach me'al pana. And as a result of that, I won't be afraid anymore. I won't be the servant who serves out of fear. Maybe if he treats me too much, then I will become an arrogant person. Nach daite the Rebbe Eliezer. When Rebbe Eliezer heard this, his ayidei shiyado kol ha'am tam adavar. So now everybody understood what was the deepest part of this. Mashalo na'ana v'lo yihya chil Hashem. The fact that he wasn't answered, and why it is that it didn't, and how it is that it's not a Chilul Hashem, that Rebbe Eliezer was pretending to be a great tzaddik, but he wasn't. Now this really, I think, it means to me like this. You know, like if you're speaking seriously, let's say that you're a Breslover like me, or you got close to that, and that that you want out of your life is to be close to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, and so he should answer your prayers because you're afraid. That is what life is about. But that connection is a real connection, and even though that it doesn't produce an immediate result, but you come back and you do it again and again and again and again, because that's the dialogue that Hakadosh Baruch Hu wants. This is Baruch Fleischman here at the Tikkun Elevator Kolel, and this is the Zohar for the second day, Parshas V'Shmos. It's the day of Gevurah.